I guess we're gonna start. So first off, hey class, sorry that I couldn't be with you today. I'm not feeling well. I'm feeling kind of sick, to be honest. So you should have a new teacher in there, at least for today, maybe for tomorrow, while I'm going to the doctor and taking some medicine, probably. But do me a favor, please be kind and respectful to whoever is going to be in the classroom. Um, for me, I can't imagine it's going to be hard. Most of you guys seem like you just want to put your heads down. Anyway, I'll try not to belabor this and make it take too long, but we're going to be going over really our packet for this class. You guys can take as much time as you need, but hopefully we can just go along together and work it out. So let me get off of all of this stuff and go ahead and pull up our website. So if you guys go to Classroom, you're going to be greeted with this page. That shouldn't be new to you. And if you click classwork, we're going to be able to access our literary devices packet. Now this says it was due yesterday. Don't pay attention to that. It's not important. In fact, let's go ahead and I'll change that right now. I don't think you guys really care if I change it, but we're going to make it due the 30th. We're going to finish it before then, but whatever. So, all right. We're going to go into our literary packet, and I'm going to go ahead and increase the size of this just a little bit, if I can, without making it look too crazy. There we go. Again, if you don't have this written down, which I believe you all should, because I think I put it in there for you, go ahead and write that down. You can pause the video, and then we'll move on. This was created by me, but whatever. All right, so on this page, again, I'm gonna cover these definitions again. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on it. If you need to, pause the video, write down any definitions that you're missing. This is graded, so you're definitely gonna wanna get them all down. But alliteration is the repetition of consonant sounds at the beginning of words. So Big Bertha bit Billy badly. All of those b sounds are alliteration. It's pretty straightforward. We've covered that many times. Allusions are going to be references in literature to a popular or well-known thing. Again, we talked about my Herculean strength, and that being a reference to Hercules, the famous Greek god, who was famous for many reasons, but one of them being how strong he was. Analogies, that's new. We talked about that briefly, and it's a comparison between two pairs of things for the purpose of clarification. So we typically write an analogy like Spider-Man is to Marvel as Batman is to DC. So if you don't know what that means, Spider-Man is a character in Marvel Comics, Batman is a character in DC Comics, and we're comparing characters to where they're found in the form of an analogy. Characterization is when we try to demonstrate what a character is like through text. There's two ways that we can do it. Direct characterization, in which the author tells us specifically how a character is. If he says that Billy was a mean kid who hated everyone, that's direct characterization. He's telling us that Billy is a mean kid who hates everyone. Indirect characterization is going to be when the author gives us some kind of knowledge about the character without telling us directly, something that we have to think on. So it can be through actions, through speech, through how other people react to the character, but we learn about a character's character through other ways. I apologize, I hit the mic. So yeah, that's how that works. Indirect characterization you can see in things like if everyone is staring at a girl in class, all the boys are constantly talking to her, but she doesn't notice their attention. We might assume that character, that girl, is maybe socially awkward, that she doesn't notice the boys giving her attention, or perhaps she is just uninterested in any kind of romantic relationship. But that would be indirect characterization. Conflict is a problem in a story that a protagonist has to deal with. You guys are familiar with that. I'm not going to cover that in detail. Connotation and denotation. So when we have words like house and home, we have a dictionary definition of the word. That's the denotation. And the dictionary definition of both of those words is identical or similar. It's a structure in which someone lives. But the connotations of those words can be vastly different. I think most of us have the conception that a house is a physical structure where you can live, but a home has more emotional qualities to it. It's a place where you're loved, where you feel wanted, where things come together, if you will. Euphemism, that is a socially acceptable replacement for something that you wouldn't want to say outright. I think the example that I gave both classes was that a euphemism is saying that somebody's not the brightest crown in the box. What you're saying in truth is you're calling somebody stupid, but the way you're saying it is slightly less offensive. So go ahead, copy those down if you don't already have them. Hopefully, if you were here over the last couple days, you should already have them. But if you don't, go ahead and pause it, copy those down. And we're going to go through the second section, the red ones, right now. And we're going to fill in some answers. And then we're going to start working through some of these activities that go along with them. So flashback. In literature, flashback is going to be the author taking us back to a time that happened previous to the events that are going on in the book. So you can think about it like the way that the Harry Potter book, or not the Harry Potter book, but the Harry Potter movie opens. If you've ever seen the original Harry Potter movie, it opens up with a scene Hagrid carrying the baby Harry to the Dursleys' house and leaving him on the porch. But the actual action takes place when Harry is much older and he's just receiving his invitation from Hogwarts. So that first part that we get in the movie is actually a flashback. It's looking back to events that took place prior to the current action of the book or the movie. So let's go ahead and write a definition down for that. And we're going to say that flashback is the use of a scene in a work of literature that took place prior to the main action of the book. Currently, that's a pretty crappy definition, but that's what we're going to say. It's the use of a scene in a work of literature that took place prior to the main action of the book currently. And that's just to give you background information. That's why authors will typically use that. So foreshadowing is similar to flashback, but kind of the exact opposite. So where flashback takes you back to a former time that happened outside of when the book is currently taking place, foreshadowing is going to be an author's use of hints and special language to let you know what might be happening further on in the book. So my example for this is if you have an author at the start of a book and he is telling you all about a house that a family is growing up in, and he spends a lot of time talking about how the dad has placed over the fireplace a shotgun that is beautiful and he polishes it all the time, but he never locks it up and never keeps it away from anyone who walks in the house. He just shows it off. If the author spends a lot of time talking about something like that, that could be the author foreshadowing the fact that that shotgun is going to come back up later on. If the author said that I don't know. Uh, I don't know. We'll just go with that. That'll be our one example. So foreshadowing is the use of special language, extra attention, or hints to inform the reader about what might happen next. Now, the reason that foreshadowing is so interesting as a concept is because when we have foreshadowing going on and we get it right, when we realize what's going to happen, we feel good about ourselves, I think, in general. And that's one of the reasons why authors really like to include it. So let's move on from there. Hyperbole. Hyperbole, I think we've talked about earlier about hyperbole is just an extreme exaggeration. So if you say, I'm so hungry I can eat a horse, unless you are very, very hungry and very, very large, you're not going to be able to eat an entire horse. And most people wouldn't eat a horse in the first place, at least in America. So that's an exaggeration. It's hyperbole. What you're really saying is, I'm really quite hungry and I would like to eat something, but you're not literally or actually going to eat a horse. So we're going to say that hyperbole is the use of extreme exaggeration in order to express an idea. The use of extreme exaggeration in order to express an idea with emphasis. That'll work. All right, imagery, as we said before, is the use of descriptive words in order to create a mental image or scene. Again, it doesn't have to be just a visual imagery. It could be something like a smell or a sound, waves crashing upon a shore, and the sound of tropical birds chirping and singing in the background. That's imagery, but it's not appealing to the eyes, it's appealing to the ears, if that makes sense. So irony. Irony, we're going to give a general definition of this, and I think it'll clarify a little bit more when we go over the actual activity. So irony is going to be, and this is our general definition, when an author breaks the reader's expectations. When an author breaks the reader's expectations, again, we'll cover that in a little more detail later on. Metaphor and simile. We talked about this before. A metaphor and a simile are both figures of speech in which we compare things to unlike things. The only difference is a simile uses the words like or as, where a metaphor does not. So, metaphor, and again, be pausing this as we go through. You don't have to type at the same speed as me. Metaphor is the use, or we won't say the use. It is a comparison of two unlike things without using like or as. Boom. And a simile is a comparison of two unlike things using like or as. Boom. Simple enough. If you have yours running over like mine is right now, you can, ooh, that's not what I wanted. You can just go ahead and select it, and then you can make the writing smaller, and eventually it'll fit. So mood and tone. The mood and tone are interesting, and they're a little harder to explain, so I'm going to skip them for right now. We'll address them when we're together and we can really talk about it. I don't want to confuse you. So we're going to skip that, and we're going to go on to onomatopoeia. We talked about this earlier, but onomatopoeia is simply the use of sound words. And there are even some words in the English language that we use that are onomatopoeias in the first place. I'll talk about that in a second, but let's get a definition down real quick. So an onomatopoeia is a sound-based word or the written expression of a sound. Okay, so we'll keep that, and we'll do some examples real quick. So when it says a sound-based word, what I mean there is the words roar, like the lion roared, and buzz. Those are both actual dictionary words. We find those in the dictionary, but for instance, you can say the plane buzzed by or something like that. Those are actually not just words, they're onomatopoeias. The thing that kind of, I guess, blew my mind a little bit when I learned about it was that roar is both a word and an onomatopoeia. I never connected the fact that the word roar is the sound of the thing that the word's talking about. I know that that seems stupid, and many of you guys probably realize that, but I did not. Other onomatopoeias are like crack or pissed. You see that with like whispering. And it's also worth noting that onomatopoeias change depending on the language that you're speaking. Not all languages use the same onomatopoeias. For instance, the English onomatopoeia for a cat's sound, I'm sure you've already thought of it, is meow. But the Japanese language onomatopoeia for a cat sound is not meow. It's actually nyan. If you ever heard of Nyan cat or Nyan cat, that is what it is. In fact, if you haven't seen Nyan cat, I would encourage you to quickly go ahead and look it up on Google because it's funny. It looks like this. I apologize. This is an ad. Come on, where you at? And it does that for a very long time. It's very annoying, but I think it's just worth noting that the name of it, Nyan cat, is actually just the Japanese word for meow. People are weird. All right, so that's where we're gonna end this portion of the video, and we're just gonna continue on from this, and we're going to try to do some of the activities. So if you wanna scroll on down, we're done with definitions for right now. And we're going to talk about the activities. I'm going to go over each one briefly. If you've already filled it out, go ahead and just skip this part of the video and just move on to the ones that you haven't worked at. I'm just going to tell you the definitions for each thing and give you one example. So again, alliteration, the occurrence of the same letter or sound at the beginning of adjacent or closely connected words. That's a really crappy definition. Again, it's the repeating of consonant sounds at the start of words. It doesn't have to do with the letters necessarily. But for this, all you're going to do is give the name of a classmate or a friend. Like I'm going to pick my friend Scott. And then you're going to give a quick alliteration based on the starting sound of their name. So with Scott's name, his starting sound is a sk sound. So I'm going to repeat that many times over the course of a couple words. So I'm going to say Scott scared the skunk. Scott scared the skunk. And again, I've repeated that ska sound multiple times. So you're just going to go ahead and do that for all 5 of these, and then you're done. Our example here says Gary's giraffe gobbled gooseberries greedily, getting good at grabbing goodies. All right. Moving on. The allusion. So again, an allusion is a it's an indirect or passing reference to a person or something famous in a work of literature. It's an Easter egg from a video game when it takes place in a book. So if we look here, it's horrible writing, so just bear with me. It says Tom mocking, hey, look at the new Newton of our class, or whatever. And then it says Jerry sarcastically, good one, Einstein. So if we look at Tom and his speech, he's referencing something that most people, at least adults, would be able to identify. And that is he's calling somebody a Newton. He's doing it sarcastically, so he's insulting someone's intelligence by calling them the name of a famous scientist, Sir Isaac Newton. That's that strange-looking man on that poster or picture. So what you're going to do is you're going to take that nice little circle right here. You're going to hit Control C and then Control V, and it's going to copy the circle, and you're going to drag the circle over top of the word Newton. You can adjust the circle size to fit you, or to fit that if you'd like, and then you're good to go, with the exception of you need to take the other circle and do it for Jerry's speech. You should be able to identify the illusion in his speech fairly easily. It's very similar to Tom's. So moving on. Analogies. We've talked about this. If you weren't here recently, you would have missed this. But again, an analogy is the comparison between two pairs of things to show some sort of relationship. We format that with with blank is to blank as blank is to blank. The reason why I use these X's and O's is to show that these two things are a pair together, and these two things are a pair together. And I'll give you an actual example. Please don't use this as one of your three, but you can see what I wrote. So my example here is going to be, I did the Spider-Man thing earlier, but I'm going to say Band-Aid is to injury as, what's a good thing? As Advil is to headache. So if we look here, it says Band-Aid is to injury as Advil is to headache. Here I'm comparing two things based on two qualities. So Band-Aid and Advil are being compared. Those are my X's. And they're being compared based on what they treat. So a Band-Aid treats an injury, or we could say cut even, and Advil treats a headache. Both of these things are medicinal tools, and then these are the treatments that they offer, or the things that they treat. Does that make sense? So what you're going to be doing is you're going to do blank is to blank as blank is to blank 3 times, and you're going to form analogies based on them. So take some time, try to figure it out. It's not too bad. Our examples are green is to go, like red is to stop. Again, we're comparing colors based on the functions that they serve in a stoplight. So when we approach a green stoplight, you go. When you approach a red stoplight, you stop. And if you fail to do that, you're very likely to end up in an accident. All right, so characterization. This says this. Characterization is the process in which a writer reveals the personality of a character. Read the following description of the character to the left, and then develop the mental, physical, intellectual, and emotional characteristics of the character. This one's a little bit more difficult than some of the other ones we've been going over, but I think with some time you're going to be able to do it. I'll give you one example for each of these different categories, and hopefully you'll be able to figure out some others by yourself. So, again, if you're just listening to this whole thing, please don't do that. Go ahead and pause and work on these things after we talk about them, if you haven't already done them. So, our description of our character says this. Bryce is his name. His hobbies include soccer, chilling with friends, texting, and cooking. His friend group, when they're together, eat lunch, or he eats lunch with the soccer team and also participates in band. His relationship status is single, and his birthday is 8/19/1999. So he's he's quite a bit older than you guys, but a little bit younger than me, about 6 years younger. So he's about 22 right now, I think. All right, so intellectual characteristics. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the things that we have a description of and try to figure out what it says about him. So based on these things, what do we know, or what can we assume about his intelligence? I would say that we could probably assume maybe Bryce is decent at school, at least decent, because if he's playing on the soccer team, you can't do that with bad grades. So he's probably in college and he's decent at school. You can think of other things to say about him based on things you see here, but that's going to be my example. You can add that too, but I want to see other examples too. Emotional characteristics. He eats lunch with the soccer team and participates in the band. Those are two very different things. I think sometimes jocks can be rude to band kids, and band kids can think all jocks are stupid, but Bryce doesn't seem to have that problem. So maybe an emotional characteristic is that he's an easygoing guy. And we can write that. Okay. Mental characteristics. I don't even really understand what this is looking for as opposed to intellectual characteristics. So let's go ahead and ignore that. You can actually go ahead and delete this whole section if you'd like. I'm not going to be angry if you do that. And then physical characteristics. We can draw assumptions based on physical characteristics, or we can draw assumptions about his physical characteristics based on these other characteristics. So for instance, he plays soccer. He enjoyed cooking and chilling with friends. So we can definitely think about, based on those things, how might he look? So go ahead and fill something out there too. All right, on to conflict. So conflict, again, it's any kind of problem that a protagonist or really anyone in a story faces. So there's two types of conflict. There are external conflicts in which a character is dealing with something outside of themselves that is offering a problem. And then an internal conflict is a problem that is within a person. So our directions here are to find an example of each form of external conflict, as well as explain what kind of internal conflict may occur due to the scenarios listed above. So here, we are going to list what kind of internal conflicts can occur from these scenarios. So for instance, cheating on a test can offer an internal conflict in the form of guilt. Maybe if you cheated on your test and you know you shouldn't have, you will feel guilty about it. So that's going to be our example for that. I want you to look at these other scenarios, like breaking up with somebody or meeting a friend for the first time, and tell me what other kind of conflicts or problems might you feel inside when you experience those things. For this one, we're going to give a Google image search for a scene. So man versus nature. Man versus nature is going to be anytime a person in a book is dealing with a problem that nature is offering. So for instance, if a tornado comes and sweeps through a valley and destroys people's homes, that is a man versus nature conflict. Man versus man is going to be when two people, or even more than two people, like in the case of a war, when two people are at a conflict. It doesn't have to be a physical conflict necessarily. Perhaps it's two people in a, I don't know, what's something that's very non-physical? A chess battle. Perhaps two chess masters are playing a game of chess and they're not sure who's going to win. That can be an example of a man versus man conflict. Person versus society, or man versus society, is going to be when a person in a book is not conforming to societal expectations, or when society wants a person to behave one way and the person does not behave that way. This is actually fairly common these days because everyone disagrees about everything. But an example of a person versus society conflict might be Nazis during the war persecuting people who didn't want to listen to Hitler or didn't want to turn in people or whatever. Man versus Machine, this is very sci-fi. It's things like computers taking over, or maybe it doesn't even have to be like machines attacking someone. It could be something as simple as, your mom doesn't know how to use the internet correctly. That is a man versus machine conflict. So go ahead and find a Google image for those things. And what you can do is you can just copy and paste those images in there. So go ahead and do that. And we're just going to do a couple more. And then if you finish early, you're welcome to go ahead and read. Try not to offer too many problems to the substitute, though. Sorry, guys, I'm really tired. It's like it's 11:46, and I'm feeling quite sick. I think I'm sounding more and more sick as I'm going. Trying to keep it in there, though. Connotation versus denotation. So, again, these are the differences between the dictionary definitions of a word and what they mean versus the feelings associated with those words. This is actually my favorite poem. I think I can say it almost entirely without looking at the poem. So I'm going to stare at you guys, and I'm going to see if I can get it at least somewhat close. The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Two roads diverged in an open wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveler. Long I stood, and stared down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, for it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that, the passing there had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I saved the first for another day, but knowing how way leads to way, I doubt that I should ever come back. I shall be telling this story with a sigh, ages and ages hence. Two roads diverge in a wood nigh. I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. I think I got that at least mostly right. I'm not going to read through it and make sure, but hopefully I got that right and didn't confuse you. It's a really good poem. It's about a person making a decision in life and realizing that no matter what decision they make, it's going to drastically affect where they end up, but the decision's not clear. They don't know which one is actually a better decision. It's a really good thing it's a really good poem to research if you ever want to do that and just try to figure out the meaning, because it's often misinterpreted. So I've given you some of the meaning. So the denotative meaning is going to be what is literally being said in this poem. And then the poem's connotative meaning is going to be what is actually being expressed. Like what's the author trying to get across, not what does the poem literally say. So go ahead, give me a brief summary of this poem, what it is literally saying is happening, and then under the connotative meaning, please give me a brief summary of basically what I just told you. What is being expressed in the poem? Hopefully that makes sense. All right. Euphemism, we're going to do that, and then we'll probably do flashback, and we'll end it there. All right, so euphemism. Euphemism, a saying that makes a rude or impolite expression but still conveys a concept clearly and politely. Directions: create 4 euphemisms. Write the polite expression on the thumbs up and the impolite expression on the thumbs down, then lift the flap and explain the purpose of the euphemism. So when it says lift the flap, it's talking about moving this. You can do that pretty easily just by moving that and then writing here. But I'll give you an example. So we're making up euphemisms here. So we need to think of something that sounds like it's not rude, but means something rude. So I'm going to make a Fortnite reference. I think when you win Fortnite, and I could be wrong here because I don't play Fortnite because it sucks. I'm looking at you, Rico. But I don't like Fortnite a whole lot. But I think when you win, it's called a chicken dinner. Could be wrong. That might be a Player Unknown Battleground thing. You know what? Let's find out. We can look stuff up, right? Fortnite. Fortnite chicken dinner. Is that a thing? Oh, it's PUBG. So it's kind of like Fortnite, but I think I've heard of people talk about that before. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Okay, so that's what it's from. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. So when you win and you beat everyone else, sometimes we call it a chicken dinner because of winner, winner, chicken dinner. Now, let's say I wanted to say somebody is not very talented, and I wanted to make a Fortnite reference. I could use a euphemism and say, they were a couple. I can say they are, actually. They are a couple of kills short of a chicken dinner. So here I'm using an expression. They're a couple kills short of a chicken dinner, which is a weird expression, I know. To explain, and then in number one, I'm going to say what it actually means. This person is, I don't know, trash at something. This person is trash at something. They're not very good at something. Okay, so I have my euphemism that I've made, and then the rude thing that I'm actually saying. And then I can explain underneath here by moving this what it actually means. So I'll add a 1, and then I'll say chicken dinner. Wow, I can't type right now. I'm so tired. Chicken dinner means you didn't win a Fortnite or PUBG game, so you're not good. I'm sorry, it would actually be not getting a chicken dinner. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and make that smaller so that everything fits. But not getting a chicken dinner means that you didn't win a Fortnite or PUBG game, so you're not good. Now, this can be hard, but I think if you guys really sit and think about a good way to say something mean, you'll be able to come up with your own euphemisms. So go ahead and knock that out. I would like for you guys to do at least 3 of the 4. Try to come up with 3 euphemisms. If you're really, really struggling, you can try to look up a euphemism, but I would really appreciate it if you guys would do your best to try to think of something, because I enjoy reading original things. Our example here, by the way, is you're becoming a little thin on the top. So that is a euphemism for you're balding. So you would write you're becoming a little thin on the top here. You'd write you're balding here, and then you'll explain it underneath by dragging this away. Make sense? Hopefully it does. All right. By the way, if you want to make sure that you drag everything away, you can go ahead and highlight it like that. Actually, I did that wrong. Whatever. I'm so tired. All right. Literary devices, flashback. This is the last one that we're going to be doing today, so make sure that you get it all together. Flashback. When was an exciting time in your life? So, a scene in a story set in a time earlier than the main story. That's pretty much the definition we gave earlier. Directions. Think about your own life and what memories trigger flashbacks for you. What scene do you envision for each of the prompts? Then move the clouds and describe the flashback beneath the thought bubble. So, when was an exciting time in your life? So an exciting time in my life was when I was in my sophomore year. That means I was in my second year of college. I traveled the Amazon rainforest with friends, my professor, and natives. All right, so that's an exciting time for my life. It's true. And if you ever want to hear the story, let me know. Describe your flashback here. So I would go on and I would write a description of my flashback. I might talk about what I did there. What was the purpose? For instance, we were on a mission trip trying to discover what we wanted to do with our lives as Christians. So we went there, we were telling people about Jesus, and we were just trying to figure out how we could spend our lives doing that. That's a flashback from our life. It was really cool. All right, so that is going to be it for right now. We made it as far as flashback. Hopefully you guys are taking some time and pausing so that you can knock all of these out. If you have any questions, you can shoot me an email at kayda@lcps.k12.va.us, and I'll try to get back to you at some point. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoy your night, or your day rather. It's night for me, but I hope you guys enjoy your day. I will see you hopefully on Thursday, if I get cleared to come back from my doctor. If not, I will see you guys on Monday. All right, I love you guys. Behave yourselves, and don't do anything stupid. I'm looking at you. All right, later, guys.